Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to be discussing parenting plans, and specifically we'll be going through a sample plan so that you know how to read and understand a plan if you have one, or if you're trying to create one, you'll know exactly what the plans mean once they're in place. A lot of times people come to my office and they have a parenting plan that they have agreed to with the other parent. However, they're actually not aware of what the parenting plan says or what each category means. So I am going to go through one step by step. So if you could go ahead and tell your friends to tune in, go ahead and share this video with everyone so they can be a part of the show. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself, and then we will get into the program today. My name is Attorney Joy Farrell. I'm the managing attorney here at the Farrell Firm, where we focus almost exclusively on family law, which includes divorce, child support, custody, and things of that nature. If you want to learn more about myself and our team here at the Farrell Firm, you can check us out at atlantacustodylawyers.com. So today, like I was saying, I'm going to be discussing parenting plans in detail. I am going to share my screen and go over a template. Many of you already have something like this, or you've seen something like this. So my goal is to just make sure that you understand it. And for those of you who don't have one, you can pull this from the one I'm looking at today. Came from the Gwinnett County website. So you can go there and print it out and try to see if you can work out a plan with your child's other parent. The plans are not enforceable unless they're signed by a judge. So it's just step one, but it can help give you some guidance if you're trying to figure one out. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I'm going to disappear. Let's see. Can't hear me. Can you guys hear me when I was going over the document? Can you type at the bottom and let me know if you could hear me? I may have to share. Just confirm whether or not you can hear me when I was going through that document. Okay, see if you can hear me now. Okay, so real quick, this is a parenting plan. Put your name here where it says you, their name where it says them. Two ways this parenting plan can go into place. Box one is if the judge box 1 is if you guys come to a consent agreement. And then box number 2 is if this plan is an order by the court, so meaning you actually go to trial and go into litigation, then this is the box that would be checked. But if you're working on this plan with the other parent, you would want to check the first box. Okay. And then right here where it says this plan, this is basically trying to figure out if this is an initial action for custody or if this is a modification of custody. So if it's the first time you've ever gone to court and this is the first custody case, you would check this box that says this is a new plan. If you're modifying an existing custody arrangement, you would check the box for modification. But you must also put the date of the original custody order. Okay, so getting into the crux of the document, section 1 says custody and decision making. So right here we're talking about legal custody. Legal custody, as I've told you guys before, is basically who has the right to make decisions about the child. Who's in the 4 categories, and we'll see this on the next page, is extracurricular activity, non-emergency healthcare, religion, and education. Who has the say-so about those categories? So this is important because a lot of times people come in here and just check mom, for example, versus joint. Joint would be really important here in most scenarios because both parents should have a say-so in the life of their child. So be careful what you're agreeing to here. Make sure that you're getting some type of custody. So joint is preferred here. Okay, going down to the primary physical custodian, this is who the child will reside with majority of the time. So in this box, you write your child's first and last name, and then you just put their birth year. And then in these boxes, you're going to check if the primary physical custody would be with the mom, the dad, or joint. You must check a box. If it's joint, that means you guys are doing some type of shared custody arrangement. Sometimes if you have multiple children, the mom may have primary custody of one child, the father may have primary custody of the other child, or joint can be for both, or mom can have primary custody for both, or father can have primary custody for both. Whatever it is, make sure you check it. It's this section right here where we start talking about I have joint legal custody and primary physical custody. This is the document that lays that out. Okay. So the next page is day-to-day decisions. What you got to know is that day-to-day decisions, regardless of what the joint legal custody or the primary physical custody is, it is presumed that the parent who has the child or whoever the child is with will make the day-to-day decisions for that child, including emergency decisions. So if you have your child, but you're not the primary physical parent and something happens, you're expected to make a decision. Okay. Category D is the major decisions. That's what I just went over for the 4 legal custody categories. We have education, non-emergency, religious, and extracurricular activities. You want to check here, mom, dad, or both. Okay. Sometimes we'll split it up and say dad is real particular about extracurriculars and religion, and mom is real particular about the school upbringing and the emergency healthcare. So we'll get mom 2 and dad 2. You can also choose joint all the way down. However, if you choose joint, you must go to number E, letter E here, that discusses disagreements. And so basically what this category is saying that if you have joint decision making, what do you do when there's a disagreement? So you can check here, the primary physical custodian shall have the final say, or you must create down here on these lines a detailed plan of tie-breaking authority. Tiebreaker means I'm supposed to have education, and my husband wants the kids to go to public school. I want them to go to private school. We have joint decision making. We've talked about it in good faith. I want them to go to private school. I have tie-breaking authority in that category, so the kids would go to private school because that's what I wanted. But you have to have a good faith conversation in these categories. Okay. Moving on to page 3 of the document. This is what lays out the parenting time that a parent is going to have, the non-custodial parent. Okay, so don't run through this part. This is very important. So this is when this is kind of how we get that every other weekend scenario, because if you see right here where it says weekend, you would put a weekend starts at Friday at 6 p.m. on Friday, you'll circle the day, or it could start on Thursday or Saturday. And then you have to put what times it ends and on what day if you're doing weekend visitation. If you're going to also add a weekday visitation, you have to put the specifics of what day that is, what time it starts and ends. Other is a really important box here, because what they have here in this plan is a standard weekend, weekday plan. Everybody doesn't fit into this. So a lot of times we're selecting other. So we'll say other, like dad or mom will have every other week, or dad will have 2 days each week and mom will have these days. And so we try to make sure we don't do cookie cutter plans like this, where it's just every other weekend, if we have a parent who indeed wants more time with their child. So we'll create a custom schedule. It could even be something like mom will have children except for the days where she has to work 3 overnight shifts per week, and during that time the father will have the kids. You also want to indicate what county the plan is going to follow. So if your child's enrolled in Gwinnett County or Fulton County or DeKalb County, you want to indicate what schedule. Especially this is important if the parents live in 2 different counties, because when we get to the holidays, we have to be following the same school district calendar, so there's no confusion. And you want to make sure you put in which date this schedule begins. I always like to put the date that it was agreed upon, so you don't have to wait until the court order, because the court order could take another, 30 to 60 days to be finalized. Okay, so this parenting plan, a lot of people get this confused too. People believe that every other weekend is the standard, but in reality, every other weekend is the minimum. Underline the word minimum in red. It is the minimum amount of parenting time that someone should have. And basically the parenting plan, if there's disagreements, the parenting plan goes into place and says this is what they're entitled to at a minimum. And so I do encourage parents to allow more time than the plan stipulates. So this is where we click the first, third weekend of each month, first, third, and fifth, second and fourth weekend, etc. Every other week, or the weekday parenting. You would need to click the box here and be very specific, because that's going to determine the time. So a big thing we also run across is visitation gets denied even though we already have a parenting plan. And most parenting plans will lay out exactly what's supposed to happen in that scenario. So as you can see here, I've highlighted in this top paragraph here, okay? And basically in the event any parenting time is denied because of an unforeseen emergency or illness, the primary custodial parent shall promptly notify the non-custodial parent, and the parent shall at that time, that means at that moment, during that phone call, during that correspondence, agree to an alternate time for the time to be made up with the child, so as to ensure that the non-custodial parent days are not limited. Okay, so that means if Susie has the flu and you call and tell dad, hey, she can't do visitation this weekend, she's sick, in that same conversation, you're supposed to make the rescheduling, okay? The default makeup time is, meaning you guys don't discuss it, it shall be the very next non-holiday weekend or weekday thereafter. So that means if I was supposed to see the children this weekend, Susie has the flu, then it's going to automatically default that next weekend is now my weekend as my makeup weekend. Okay, people totally miss this paragraph right here. So make sure you pay special attention to it. Going on down the plan, we get into the major holidays. Thanksgiving and Christmas is what we see on the screen here. And you basically want to alternate it. If dad gets Thanksgiving in odd years, he should get Christmas in even years, and vice versa. So that way each parent has one major holiday each year. When we're looking at Christmas, you can decide what the exchange day will be. Some people like exchanging on Christmas Day because they want to see their child on Christmas. So it may be like a 2 p.m. exchange, and then the child goes to have Christmas with the other family. Some people don't like having the child move on Christmas Day, so the exchange is then December 26th. So, or 27th, depending on your scenario. You really need to lay it out for what works for your family, because if you travel every year for Christmas, you know you won't be back here on the 26th, so you may need to do a 27th exchange date. And I'm sorry I sound stuffy, guys. I have really bad allergies. Okay, moving on down, the summer vacation part of the plan. Summer, this is where you would define summer. The automatic default definition is the months of June, July, and August when the school year ends until the beginning of the start of the school year. If you live in Georgia, our school gets out roughly in May, goes back in August. But if the other parent lives up north, they get out of school in June and go back in September. And so if that's you want to make sure you select other definition here. Summer vacation supersedes all other visitation, other weekend visitations in this plan. Okay, so if you have summer visitation, it's going to trump whatever else is there. And so what you want to do is in the annual summer vacation period, you want to select which times each parent is going to have. The first box is for the mother. She's going to have them from this time until that time. And then down here, the father shall have this time to that time. And basically at the bottom, you say the mom will have a total of 4 weeks and dad will have a total of 4 weeks or whatever it is for your family. There's no standard summer visitation. Some people try to limit it to about 2 weeks, but sharing summertime is important. However, with summer visitation, there is a requirement that you give notice. So mother has to give notice to father by a certain time period when she's going to do her summer weeks, and father also has to give her notice. Usually notice is anywhere between March and April. This particular template has it noticed for April. I would probably do March because it's March now. My children's summer camp and vacations are already planned, so April would be too late for me. So you can decide in your plan how soon you want to get notice. If you fail to give notice, it can be waived, or you lose the option to have first priority. Okay. It also says here in the template that the non-primary parent shall not have time basically the first week after school and then the first week before school goes back. But you can change that if you're in agreement with it. But if the court orders it, it's probably going to err on the side of the template. Then we go into spring break. That's the week that the kids have off during the school year. And you alternate years on that too. If dad has spring break in even years, mom would have fall break in the even years. And then next year, dad will have spring break in odd and mom would have fall break. And fall break is that week. For some schools, they have fall break in like literally the fall, like before Christmas. But a lot of other schools have it, they call it like a winter vacation. And for my kids, it was in February of this year. So if you know your school is different, you would want to, on this line where it says define, you would want to make sure you define it very clearly. Okay, and so then on page 8, we get into all the other holidays. And basically what you want to do is just flip them each year. So MLK, President's Day, Easter, Memorial Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Halloween, and all that. You basically just want to go through and alternate which years just by writing odd, even, odd, even. And, so basically 2018 is an even year. 2019 is an odd year. So 2018 MLK Day, dad would have had the child. Next year, mom will have the child. Memorial Day coming up, mom will have child this year because it's the even year. You can also determine what you guys are going to do for the child's birthday. The default is that you would celebrate the child's birthday during your parenting time closest to the child's birthday. And then for your birthday and the other parent's birthday, you can also do the same thing. If you're of a different religion and there are other holidays that your culture may celebrate, you would want to write them down here and then put when each parent will have the child. Okay, so further down on page 9, we're clarifying when the holiday starts and ends. So holidays that fall on Friday include the following Saturday and Sunday. Holidays that fall on Monday include the preceding Saturday and Sunday. So for example, if you have Memorial Day, which is on a Monday, your holiday visitation would includes Saturday and Sunday prior to. So make sure you're looking at your plan and make sure you're getting all your days you're entitled to. Otherwise, you'll just get the child on Monday when you could have had the child on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Okay. Another thing that a lot of people overlook in parenting plans is the transportation. Pick up and drop off of the child. Who's going to pick up the child? Who's going to drop off the child? That's important. To me, I think it's easier that the parent that's going to start the exercise of visitation should pick up. So that means if the kids are going with their dad on Friday, dad should pick them up. And if they're going with their mom on Sunday, mom should pick them up to bring them back. And this way we alleviate any concerns with the children not being returned timely. But if you guys want to meet at a central location, that is always a possibility. Or if one parent is going to do all of the pickup and drop off, that's an option as well. But you got to make sure you don't get into transportation deviations. So like transportation costs here on the next page, gas, is not totally cheap. So if you're driving 45 minutes to an hour one way to get your child, you may start asking for reimbursement for those travel expenses. This is a little petty, but most certainly if we have a child that lives in Alabama and the primary parent lives in Georgia, we may want to figure out how the parents are going to split the transportation costs. The parenting plan also covers what to do when the other parent is late to come and get the child. With the template in the standard form says that they're supposed to have a 30-minute grace period. So that means if you're supposed to exchange at 6, you're supposed to give a good faith effort and wait 30 minutes and try to communicate with the other parent as to where they are. After the 30 minutes has passed, you are free to leave and assume that the parenting time will not occur and proceed with your life. The other parent can come pick the child up from wherever else or whatever, but you only have to wait about 30 minutes. Okay. Also further down here, we're talking about third-party pickups. Sometimes you won't be the only person picking up your child, and so you want to make sure that it's allowed in your parenting plan that you allow somebody else to pick up the child. Could be a stepmom, stepdad, grandparent, friend, or whoever, but you just want to make sure that that's agreed upon, because so many times you show up at visitation and the other parent refuses to release the child because somebody's there to get the child who was not discussed with or approved prior to them trying to pick up the child. Another big issue that comes up a lot is the children who are involved in extracurricular activities or school plays or whatever. A lot of times some of the parents will say, oh, well, you can't see the child because they have baseball this weekend. Well, that does not stop visitation. As I highlighted here, in the event a child has any scheduled school or extracurricular activities on a weeknight or weekend, the non-custodial parent has parenting time. The non-custodial parent should use his or her best efforts to handle each child's transportation to and from these activities. That means the non-custodial parent can take the child to the baseball game or the basketball game or to the track meet. They don't miss visitation just because the child has something scheduled. They are able to take the child and attend the event as well. And you can also attend the event, but it is their visitation, and extracurricular activities do not stop parenting time. The last section on page 10 is contacting the child. The other parent has the right to contact the child with reasonable telephone access. So like I highlighted here, multiple daily calls and texts are not intended. So we ask, well, what is reasonable? Reasonable text messages. So I think one phone call per day is more than reasonable. If your child is old enough to have a cell phone, you can give that child a phone, but you should again be reasonable in your interruption of that child's time with the other parent. Okay, when the child is with the other parent, the child should not be used to harass, annoy, or interfere or pry into the personal life of the other parent. So that means you shouldn't be asking your son or daughter, well, what was he doing? Or did he have somebody over to the house and blah, blah, blah. And then furthermore, each parent shall maintain a telephone number that is furnished to the other parent. This means no blocking phone numbers. If you have somebody's child, you cannot block their number from your phone. They need to have access to reach their child at all times. Going down to provision I, this is for supervised visitation. Usually in mediation or on agreed upon parenting plans, most people aren't agreeing to supervise. This will probably be an order of the court. But when can you get supervised visitation? Supervised visitation, the other parent has to be of some type of threat or harm to the child. It has to be some type of concern. They have to be more than a bad boyfriend or a bad girlfriend or a bad husband or wife. To you, they have to be some type of threat of harm to the child. That's when we get into supervised visitation. So a parent who may have drug abuse problems, alcohol problems, or maybe have a history of physical abuse, we would get into supervised visitation, and we would make a determination as to who's going to do the supervising, where it will take place, and who's going to pay for that. Okay, so if you're moving on provision J, each parent, the standard is 30 days. You have to give 30 days advance notice. I prefer 60 to 90 days because not much can be done in 30 days. So if you're doing a parenting plan, I would scratch out 30 and write 60 or 90 to make sure there's enough time. Because if somebody's going to move, you want to have enough time to file any type of court actions that you may feel like you need to. The other terms down here, neither parent shall basically talk bad about the other parent in front of the children. And parents should not relay messages between the children. If there is family violence, the parent does not have to disclose their address, and they can communicate through a third party, but in exchange contact information, but not the address. If you have someone who does not exercise their parenting time, in the standard form, it is presumed, I highlighted it here, it is presumed that the non-custodial parent will exercise all available parenting times in this order. But you can do the opposite. If you have someone who very rarely does parenting time, you can check this box and basically say they have to give you notice if they are going to exercise their parenting time. That's only for people who don't do their time consistently. If somebody is consistent, then it's presumed that they're going to do their parenting time. Under provision 3 here, access to records and information. This is a big thing. Especially for the fathers who are going through legitimation. Both mothers and fathers have access to the children's records. That's education, health, extracurricular, religious, whatever. They have access to those records right here based on 1991B1D. Unless you check limitations, and you have to list what those limitations are for that information. But typically, both parents can access the school records. So if you have a custody order in place and you're complaining about, she doesn't tell me when the games are, when the programs are, when PTA night is, you have this document and you can go down to the school and get access to your records yourself. You have to take responsibility. Once you have this document, nobody has to tell you anything when you have full access to the school. So you need to make sure the school has your information on the contact list, has your email address, and the teachers have your contact so they can send you out information. Prong 4 here is the modifications or disagreements. Like I said, you guys can change this plan however you want to. Like, hey, instead of doing first and third, fifth weekend, Friday through Sunday, let's do Thursday through Monday. You can do that so long as there's an agreement. But if there's no agreement, we default back to the order. And what I say all the time, custody and child support may only officially be modified by a court order. So if you've been doing something for a year and all of a sudden there's a disagreement, it's not binding. That new agreement that you guys made on the side, you can't do anything about it. So I do recommend that if you come up with a new parenting plan, you've been operating under it for a while, and it gives you more parenting time and you want to stick to it, go ahead and see, like, hey, let's make this official. Let's file a modification and get a court order. Okay, and on the last page, the last relevant page here, if you're agreeing to this, you must initial here. Basically saying, you're going to do what's in the child's best interest. You recognize the child's needs will change, and you guys are going to discuss that. You understand that the parent who currently has a child will make day-to-day decisions. That means what they're going to eat for dinner or what they're doing that day. If an emergency happens, the parent who has a child will make a decision. Once all of that is done, both of you are going to sign father, mother, okay? And then down at the bottom, it says order. And then the judge signs. So even though this is a document you may have filled out, once the judge puts their signature on here, this is an order of the court that is fully enforceable by law. Okay, and that will be incorporated into your final order of divorce or legitimation or modification of custody. Okay, so that is the parenting plan. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and start typing them because I'm going to run through and answer the questions. Okay, Ernest says, if I pay child support, can I claim my child without penalty for the last 2 years before she turns 18? Ernest, if you do not have primary custody of the child, you are not to claim the child on taxes. The taxes is a federal law, and what the federal law says is that the primary parent, meaning the person who the child resides with, 50% or more has the absolute right to claim the child. Even the superior courts don't have the right to order the primary parent to allow the non-primary parent to claim the child on taxes. They can by consent and agreement. So if you're wanting to do that, you may want to reach out to the child's mother to find out if she will sign the consent form that's located on the IRS website. If she signed that, then that will allow you to claim your child for 2 years. Right now, that is the only question that I see. So I'll give you guys a few more seconds to type the questions. Okay. Okay, it's not popping on the screen for some reason, but I see it at the bottom. So Hannah says, if the parenting plan gives the father final say-so over extracurricular activities, how many times does the father have to ask the mom about sports before finally signing the child up for sports without the mother's agreement? There's no time frame, Hannah. They just need to have a realistic discussion about it and a fair discussion. Hey, I want them to do this. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And then if there's no agreement, the father automatically has the right to make the final say-so of that decision. And then he can go ahead and sign the child up for what he wants to sign the child up for. But let me say this. If father is signing a child up for extracurricular activities, I would encourage him to ensure that the child can get there. So if father only sees the child on the weekend, don't sign him up for activities that are on Monday and Wednesday that will require the mother to have to leave work early, pick the child up, take him to the activities, sit there for an hour and a half, and then take him home. If the father's going to be making those decisions, he needs to make sure that he can ensure that the child is able to get there by him. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. So if you guys are interested in coming into our office, we do offer consultations for $150. And our phone number is 678-973-2803, or you can schedule a consultation online at atlantacustodylawyers.com. I'll see you guys next week. I'll be doing a live Q&A on Wednesday, so make sure you tune in or drop some questions in our DM, and we'll try to address those questions live. Hope you guys have a blessed and awesome weekend.